In the dense forest of Ijibu, a village nestled deep within Ogun State, lived an old farmer named Baba Alao. His farmland was the envy of the region, with lush crops that grew larger and healthier than any others. Year after year, his yield was bountiful, and his produce was sought after from far and wide. Traders, market women, and even king's emissaries came to Baba Alao's land, eager to get their hands on his goods. "What's your secret, Baba?" people would often ask. With a crooked smile and a glint in his eye, Baba Alao would point to his scarecrow standing tall in the middle of his fields. "It's that scarecrow," he'd say. "He wards off all the birds, rats, and even the spirits of the land. As long as he stands, my crops will flourish." The scarecrow, looming tall under the scorching sun, was unlike anything anyone had seen. It wasn't just the average farm decoration, it was an unsettling sight. Baba Alao had spent months crafting it with precision, using materials he gathered from deep within the forest. The villagers whispered about the eerie aura that surrounded the figure. Some claimed it was no ordinary scarecrow, others swore they heard faint whispers when passing Baba Alao's farm at night. Baba Alao built the scarecrow himself after countless hours of labor. He had scavenged old wood, vines, and dried leaves from a cursed part of the Ijibu forest, a place people feared to enter. But the scariest feature of the scarecrow was its grotesque head, carved meticulously out of a giant god. The god was larger than a human head, with deep-set eyes and a wide, twisted grin. Baba Alao had spent sleepless nights carving its features, each one more horrifying than the last. The scarecrow's face was so distorted that even he sometimes flinched at the sight of it. But this was no ordinary craftsmanship, it was as if something unnatural had guided Baba's hands, pushing him to make it as menacing as possible. When the scarecrow was finally placed in the field, it did more than scare away the birds. People stopped visiting Baba Alao after dark. Even the animals in the surrounding forest kept their distance. The scarecrow seemed to hold a dark, malevolent power, one that Baba Alao refused to speak of. Across the dirt path, on the neighboring farm, two brothers, Adewale and Femi, watched Baba Alao with envy. Their own farm was pitiful in comparison, with stunted crops and a dying harvest. The two men were lazy and spent more time drinking palm wine than tending to their land. As their jealousy grew, they began to plot against the old farmer. "If we can get rid of that scarecrow," Adewale said one night, eyes burning with greed, "his crops will rot. Then he'll have no choice but to sell the land to us." Femi agreed, grinning at the thought of taking over Baba Alao's prosperous farm. "We'll be the kings of this land," he laughed. "No more toiling in the sun. That scarecrow is the key." Little did they know, some things are better left untouched. One fateful night, under the cover of darkness, Adewale and Femi snuck onto Baba Alao's farm. The moon hung low, casting long shadows across the field, and the silence was oppressive. The scarecrow stood in the middle of the land, motionless but menacing under the silver light. As they approached the figure, Femi hesitated. "Maybe we shouldn't do this," he whispered, suddenly unsure. "Stop being a coward," Adewale snapped. He yanked the scarecrow down from its post. It was heavy, heavier than it looked, but they managed to drag it back to their farmhouse. The entire time, the air around them seemed to grow colder, and the wind whispered in tones neither brother could understand. Once inside their home, they shoved the scarecrow into an old, unused room and slammed the door shut. "That's it," Adewale said, breathing hard. "He'll be ruined by morning." At dawn, Baba Alao woke up to a nightmare. His scarecrow was gone, and within hours, his once thriving crops were overrun by pests. Rats scurried between the rows, crows pecked at the remnants of his harvest, and insects devoured everything in sight. His heart sank as he realized his protection was gone. He knew something was terribly wrong. The scarecrow wasn't just an ornament, it was something more, something powerful. Without it, his farm would be destroyed. Desperate, he searched every inch of his land but found nothing. From across the field, the brothers watched with glee. "Look at him," Adewale sneered. "Pathetic old man." Baba Alao, shoulders slumped in defeat, approached the brothers. "Have you seen my scarecrow?" he asked quietly, though his eyes held an intensity that made the brothers uncomfortable. "No idea what you're talking about," Femi lied, a smirk playing on his lips. "Maybe it ran off on its own." That night, Adewale and Femi lay in their beds, unable to sleep. It wasn't guilt that kept them awake, rather, it was the lingering image of the scarecrow's horrifying face. Even with the door to the storage room firmly shut, they couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. "We should get rid of it," Femi whispered in the darkness. "I don't want it here anymore." Adewale scoffed but couldn't deny the chill in the air. Reluctantly, they rose from their beds and dragged the scarecrow out from the room. Its head, that terrifying god face, seemed even more grotesque under the dim light of their lantern. With trembling hands, Adewale grabbed the pestle and smashed the god into pieces. The brothers sighed with relief, sweeping the broken bits into a waste bin. "That should do it," Adewale muttered, though a part of him still felt uneasy. Around midnight, the scratching began. Soft at first, barely audible, but it grew louder. Femi stirred in his bed, blinking at the darkened room. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. The scratching continued, this time followed by a faint thump. Adewale sat up, eyes wide with fear. "It's probably nothing." Then the door burst open. A long, straw arm snaked into the room, dragging itself across the floor. Another arm followed, then two stick-like legs. The scarecrow's headless body rose in the moonlight, its arms reaching out toward them. Frozen in terror, Adewale screamed as a cold, straw claw wrapped around his ankle. "Femi! Help me!" But Femi was already running. He tore out of the room, down the hallway, and out into the night. The horror had only just begun. As Femi fled, his heart pounded in his chest. He ran barefoot down the dusty village road, the moon casting eerie shadows. The chill of the night air burned his lungs, but he didn't stop. Behind him, the scarecrow's grotesque body gave chase, its movements unnaturally fast. Every time Femi looked back, he saw the abomination gaining on him, its long arms reaching out, as though hungry for him. But that wasn't all he saw. The scarecrow had a new head. And it looked disturbingly like Adewale. What do you think happened to Adewale? What would the scarecrow do to Femi? Your comments are welcome. Please watch out for the part 2 next week Thursday. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out.